From KCTS-FM Phoenix, I'm Jamison Greenwood with Greenwood and Company. Well, greetings to you all. I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. I can't believe tomorrow is already December 1st. Christmas will be here before we know it. I was thinking, I decided to make a bet with myself. Well, not really a bet, more of a promise to myself that I would not listen to any Christmas music this year until after December 1st, and except for Home for the Holidays, which I consider more of a Thanksgiving song, I have succeeded in that, so only one more day to go here. I was thinking that a lot of the songs we know and love at Christmas time were composed by those who wrote a lot of the Great American Songbook music that became popular with jazz musicians and other singers back in the early days. And because I find that music so inspirational, I was inspired to write this poem about the Great American Songbook. The classic songs that Tin Pan Alley hammered upon pianos in the crowded lofts, melodies complex with clever lyrics, a balanced music serious but soft. Songs performed across the Great White Way, across the country taped in Tinseltown. Though characters and plots were hit and miss, the perfect song could be a movie's crown. And though we never watched the DVDs our matriarchs and patriarchs revered, their songs were passed along like lullabies at school concerts, always there to hear. Berlin and Kern, the Gershwins, Sammy Kahn, their names forgotten, still we sing with glee. Those songs they wrote to stand the test of time, whose melodies and lyrics set us free. Besides Christmas music and religion, which is really, those are two of the major themes, I think the most common theme we hear in lyrics is always romance. And it's very common to us writers, which is why I turned my mind to the first girl I ever liked, my next-door neighbor Chloe Bradbury, because it was these beautiful songs from the Great American Songbook that kind of awakened me to how beautiful love can be. I was only 10 years old at the time, but sometimes even when you're 10, your feelings are very, very serious. For the Greenwood family, Saturday seemed to be the one day we could just breathe and decompress from the hard week at work and school, and look forward to an evening visit with Grammy Benson and an edifying church service the next morning. My sister Macy and I slept in while Dad worked in the garage fixing the innards of his toy train locomotives, or building and maintaining the backyard enclosures for the box turtles and red-eared sliders he kept as pets. Mom tended to leave the house while Macy and I slept, taking the Grand Marquis for a drive-through breakfast at McDonald's with a side order of NPR's Weekend Edition, then grocery shopping at Giggott's before a dose of Carl Castle and Peter Sagal's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me on the drive back. Being less inclined toward herpetology and grocery shopping, I usually spent my Saturday mornings drawing or watching TV, going back and forth between Oswald and Hey Arnold on the CBS Kids block, Recess Doug and Sabrina the Animated Series on ABC's One Saturday Morning, or This Old House and Antiques Roadshow on PBS. Sometimes Macy would join me and watch, but being 2 years old, all she usually did was sleep. Though never very eventful until the big drive to Grammy's house in the early evening, some Saturdays brought along an occasional church function, toy train swap meet, or a birthday party, as happened when my next-door neighbor, Marcia Bradbury, had her 9th birthday. My two best friends Theo and Taylor would be going, along with other kids from school and church. Birthday parties were okay, but I was a bit nervous about this one. It was at the Roadrunner Trails Country Club and would congregate around their Olympic swimming pool. I was too young to have any sense of class differences that would make one nervous about visiting a country club, but the swimming part concerned me. Water and drowning never caused any qualms. Our bodies are 70% water anyway, and my home in the desert made water more profound than in other regions. Rather, it was the uniform. I have always been self-conscious, preferring to wear long pants even in the summer, along with sneakers and crew-length socks keeping even my ankles concealed. I can wear short sleeves in the summer, but they always make me feel slightly off-kilter. It's a blessing when winter comes and I'm okay to wear long sleeves again. Swim trunks and flip-flops never felt natural to me, but Mom convinced me, when in Rome, act like a Roman. I swam a bit with Theo and Taylor, but the water lost its luster within a few minutes. While Theo, Taylor, and Marcia jumped around in the water reenacting the climax of The Little Mermaid, Theo as Eric, Marcia as Ariel, and Taylor as Ursula, I grabbed a can of A&W and sat on a lounge chair to watch them, occasionally correcting a misspoken line of their dialogue, until Chloe Bradbury came to sit with me. Chloe Bradbury was Marcia Bradbury's older sister. As a cheerleader for the Estrella Valley Middle School, she had a very athletic figure, but it was nothing compared to her beautiful, sweet-looking, cinnamon-colored eyes. Since this was a pool party, she was wearing a pink floral bikini, which made me feel a little bit weird, but as she lay down on the next lounge chair, folding her arms behind her head, I actually found a bizarre satisfaction in her presence and looking at her, and I didn't want her to leave. "How you been, Jimmy?" Chloe asked. "Pretty good," I explained. "I'm not as big on swimming, I guess." "I wish we could have gotten the hot tub," Chloe sighed. "Hot tubs are more relaxing." I was now wishing the same thing. Chloe and I could sit in the hot tub while the rest of the kids played. "I'm craving a cotton candy," she asked. "You want one?" "Sure." Chloe grabbed her beach towel and flip-flops, then walked me over to the snack bar, where she spun 2 cones of sky-blue cotton candy for us to snack. Through pizza, cake, and ice cream, I stuck by Chloe's side until it was time to leave. "See you around, Jimmy," Chloe smiled as I left. All the ride home I didn't talk much. I was obsessed with Chloe, but I couldn't understand why. It was likely just because the party was out of the ordinary. A trip to visit my Grammy Benson in Sun City West would be a much-needed reset. We decided we would eat takeout from Applebee's, and while Mom and Dad went to pick up the food and Macy napped in Grammy's guest room, I sat in the living room with Grammy and watched the Lawrence Welk Show. This was a cheesy music show hosted by an eccentric orchestra conductor with a thick German accent, who would exclaim, "Wonderful, wonderful," at the end of almost any performance. After some over-costumed and over-choreographed song and dance numbers from his ensemble of singers, time came for a selection of instrumental sparkling champagne music from the band. The selection was an old Jerome Kern song, "I've Told Every Little Star," and though this song featured no singing, Grammy, who had known the song when it was brand new, added the lyrics herself. In hearing those lyrics, which speak of a person telling everyone but the object of their affection how they love them, I began to imagine speaking to the stars of Chloe Bradbury. Then I denied it. Grammy said I was too young to have a girlfriend, yet still I wondered, am I in love? The next song was performed by a man named Ken Delo, who walked onto the set in a white suit, salmon shirt, and paisley tie to sing Cheek to Cheek. In describing how the singer was in heaven, it at first stirred up thoughts of my own mortality. Finding peace in God's kingdom is something I still look forward to when my time comes, but why would you sing about thoughts of a lovely woman sending you into a box or urn? However, thoughts of burial and cremation soon gave way to thoughts of being cheek to cheek with Chloe Bradbury, or even her kissing my cheek, which frightened me, and me kissing her cheek, which frightened me even more. Most of the songs on the Lawrence Welk Show I had heard many times before, either on the show itself or on some of the albums Grammy played on her old Motorola record player. But rather than the punchy sounds of the trumpets and singers, the smoothness of the saxophones, and the velvet sounds of the strings, I began to pay closer attention to the lyrics. As I heard them, I imagined I was the one singing, and Chloe was the one I was singing about. Well, I hope this trip down memory lane is as fun for you as it is for me, but before I continue it, we have to take a short break. And when we come back, I will tell you a little bit more about what these realizations on Chloe drove me to do. You are listening to Greenwood and Company on KCTS. If you've been injured in a car, motorcycle, or RV accident, especially if the accident was your fault, you are exactly the client we need. This is Cactus Bill Jacobs of the Montgomery McDougall Law Group, where we handle the hardest injury cases that come our way. You may have lost your car, motorcycle, or RV, but you can rest assured knowing you're helping us gather the down payment for our next car, motorcycle, or RV. And if you're lucky and we win, you'll get some of the settlement too.
Call Cactus Bill Jacobs and the Montgomery McDougal Law Group, 1-877-273-9968. That's 1-87-SCREWYOU. Call now.
And welcome back. You are listening to Greenwood and Company on the Cactus, KCTS. Now, before the break, I was telling you a little bit about watching Lawrence Welk at Grammy's house, but thinking quite a bit about Chloe Bradbury. After we got home from Grammy's that night, I said a prayer. I had not yet wrapped my head around the idea of asking God questions, but I said, Jesus, I think I might have a crush on Chloe, but I'm not sure. Can you help me figure it out? That night I dreamed of Chloe and I, sitting in my mother's Mercury Grand Marquis, me behind the wheel and her in the passenger's seat, sharing popcorn and root beers at a drive-in movie theater. I forget what the movie was other than a grown-up movie with a big kiss at the end, and when the two lovers on screen embraced, Chloe grabbed my head and pressed her lips to mine, saying, I love you, my sweet little muffin. I responded, I love you too, Chloe. Then realized I had woken up from the shock and in fact confessed my love to my ceiling fan. I do love Chloe, I realized. With the sun up by this time and the sounds of my father in the shower, I figured I'd go ahead and get ready for church, but I was nervous, as the moment I'd see Chloe, I might lose control and try to kiss her. She might comment the mini muffins served during coffee hour were the sweet little muffins like she called me in the dream, making me collapse. During Sunday school, while the liturgy of the Word was in progress in the sanctuary, I normally would discuss a number of things in great detail with Theo and Taylor, though it was more debriefs on the previous morning's Hey Arnold or recess than Christian best practices. But this day I kept to myself, feeling low on blood pressure and needing to tell Theo and Taylor, but fearing they would ridicule me. It was an emotional equivalent of fearing the seam of your pants had ripped, or trying to hold back a Schwarzenegger-sized fart. Once the adults exchanged the word of peace, Theo, Taylor, and I took a seat in the pew toward the back, as we often did, while Pastor Rubio gave the weekly announcements for upcoming church events. During this time, Taylor would sometimes take her bulletin and draw pictures of roller coasters or flowers, which Theo and I would politely try to acknowledge while staying under the radar to not disturb our fellow parishioners. But when I barely noticed her work in my trance, Taylor took slight offense. I realized my error right away and apologized, which earned her forgiveness, but it had gotten Theo's attention too. "You okay, JG?" he asked while we waited in line for communion. "I'm fine." But I could tell Theo and Taylor were surprised. Once we took the blessed bread and wine, Taylor asked, "You sure you're okay, Jimmy? You're really quiet." I nodded my head, but she persisted. "Does your tummy hurt, Jimmy? We can go to the church hall early if you need some water." Theo added, "You can barf in my backpack if you need to, JG." If the three hardest words for men to say are "I don't know," then I was about to use the three words that men, women, and non-binary people find so hard not to say, "I'm just fine," often when they are anything but true. After we rose for the post-communion prayer, Pastor Rubio sent us off, reminding us that the world is too dangerous for anything but truth and too small for anything but love, before we began the final hymn, "Love Divine, All Loves Excelling." However, Theo and Taylor left the pew as the rest of the congregation sang, motioning me to join them. We came to the narthex, not many feet away from where Pastor Rubio processed with the deacons and acolytes waiting to greet the parishioners. His smile reminded me of his blessing, and his blessing reminded me that the world is far too dangerous for anything but the truth. Feeling duty to protect my friends, I explained, "Guys, I'm afraid of Chloe." "Why?" asked Taylor. "You seemed like you were getting to be buddies at Marcia's birthday party yesterday," Theo noted. "Well, I think I'm in love with her." "Jimmy," Taylor said, "you either are in love with someone or you aren't. If I like looking at her and if I think of her when I hear love songs, does that mean I'm in love?" Taylor picked up on the typical shame that I felt. "It's okay for you to like Chloe, Jimmy." Taylor patted my shoulder. "Are you sure?" I asked. I'm not being a bad Christian because I have a crush on her? No, Taylor smiled. It's sweet. But what should I do about it? I feel like I have to do something and I can't. I could see Chloe in the distance wearing a blue sleeveless dress and a pair of black sandals. She probably couldn't hear us, but I was not trusting anything. Go tell her, Jimmy, Theo exclaimed. There she is now. Taylor jabbed him again. Why do you keep jabbing me, Taylor? She jabbed him once more. I know you mean well, Theo, but Jimmy needs to do this at his own pace. He smiled at Taylor, forgiving her trespasses against him, and her forgiving his trespasses against me on my behalf. At that moment I forgot what was happening, as Chloe was within just a few feet of greeting Pastor Rubio and would soon give a hello to us. I was nowhere near ready to tell her how I felt, but as I glanced at the gleam of her cinnamon eyes and the shimmer of her licorice-colored hair, I prayed that someday I'd have the strength. To ensure I prepared early, I was careful to straighten the clip-on tie I was wearing and wipe my glasses with a Kleenex from the greeter's table. I had to look nice for my love, and with enough doses of those cinnamon eyes and licorice hair, I just might find the strength to tell her how I truly felt. You're listening to Greenwood and Company on KCTS. At the end of a long day, sometimes you just need a cold one. But you don't want the strong, expensive stuff or the cheap, trashy stuff. You just want something right in the middle. Look no further than Judge Thatcher's Lawful Lager, a cool, refreshing blend of wheat, hops, and castor beans for that repellent but refreshing taste. Judge Thatcher's Lawful Lager is just for guys like you, who like a good, clean beer. We'll make your mouth feel like a hardwood floor just coated in pine sol, and after a few, cut your bladder loose to ruin it. Every time a gavel lands, have Lawful Lager close at hand. Judge Thatcher's Lawful Lager, available in cans, bottles, or on tap at the Birch Tree Tavern and other neighborhood bars. Additional support for Greenwood and Company and the Cactus KCTS comes from the Save the Floppy Disks Foundation, the Used Car Salesman Plaid Sport Coat Foundation, and the Society for Cats with Mathematics Test Anxiety. Well, before we go, I wanted to share a poem that I thought about reflecting on this whole situation with Chloe Bradbury and how insanely interested I was in her. I wrote, this is called a haibun, which is a Japanese form of poetry in which a large portion is given at the beginning, and then there's a haiku at the end, which sums up the whole idea. This is a poem, a haibun, I call Infatuation. Infatuation. Youthful beauty like a painting, racing heart triggered by her sight, that beautiful burn in her eyes, searing like a hot cattle brand. Joy in every moment you share, boiling blood when other guys stare. She smiles at them, your heart shudders. If only you could be that guy. Tragic tears you cry this evening, though like a gift they seem to be. Her face, her eyes, her smile soften, your sadness like a mother's love. Then laughter blurs the tragic tears, her teasing you relentlessly. How hard she laughed at all your jokes, despite how dumb they were. Beauty that brightens memories, her inordinate divine gift, her hopeful smile preserving joy, reminding of that hopeful dream of sharing laughter, kisses, hugs, loving through the tearful moments, then remembering with nostalgia those moments as the years go by. Despair she launches at your heart, even when recalling laughter, beauty, kisses, eyes shining bright. You still collect favored evidence, but soon your love dissolves. Sadness takes its claim, but time destroys the good, the bad. Lessons remain. Early flames burn down, all resolve when blown away. Smiles and wisdom come. That brings an end to this week's Greenwood and Company. Our show was created and hosted by yours truly and was written by him along with James Salison and Minnesota Martinez. The engineer is Ivan Crosby. Jonas Andrews answers the phones even though we don't take calls on this program. The theme was composed by Martin Landstrom. and our costumes are provided by Grandma's Garage Thrift Shop. All the characters, settings, and situations depicted in this program, along with all advertised products, are entirely fictional, and any similarities to products, events, or persons, living or dead, is entirely coincidental. Also, KCTS is not an actual radio station. Be sure to like and leave a comment on this podcast, and make sure to follow us on Spotify to get more information about new episodes. And be sure to share this podcast with your friends. Just a reminder to please be careful if you are going out on the 101, the 17, or Route 66 tonight. I'm Jamison Greenwood, and until we meet again, stay healthy, stay safe, and stay young at heart. Good night. This is KCTS FM Phoenix. Stay tuned for Lacking in Substance.